Hello and welcome. Tonight, I invite you to step back in time with me to the distant shores of the Mediterranean Sea, where one of history's most enigmatic civilizations once flourished. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the gentle whispers of the past carry you to the island of Crete, where the Minoans built a world of beauty, mystery, and grandeur. Imagine the sun-drenched shores, the vibrant frescoes adorning palace walls, and the echo of footsteps in the vast halls of Knossos, a place that once thrived as the heart of a magnificent civilization. Tonight, we will explore the secrets of the Minoans, an ancient people who left behind no written history that we can read but spoke through their art, architecture, and myths. We'll delve into their early beginnings, how they rose from humble origins to build one of the most sophisticated societies of their time. We'll wander through the grand palaces they constructed, marvel at their vibrant art, and uncover the significance of their rituals and beliefs. Together, we will uncover how the Minoans mastered the seas, becoming fearless traders who connected their world with distant lands. We'll explore their social structure, the vital role women played in their society, and the wealth they amassed through trade and innovation. But the Minoan story is not without tragedy. We'll face the cataclysmic events that led to their mysterious decline. Was it the wrath of nature, or was it conflict with invaders that brought an end to their golden age? By the end of our journey, you will see how the echoes of the Minoan civilization continue to resonate through history, influencing myths and cultures long after their cities fell silent. So, find a comfortable place, relax, and allow my voice to guide you through the ancient world of the Minoans, a story of beauty, power, and mystery, whispered from the shores of a lost civilization. The birth of a civilization, the early Minoan period. As we begin our journey into the world of the Minoans, we find ourselves on the sun-kissed island of Crete, surrounded by the sparkling waters of the Aegean Sea. It is here, in this idyllic landscape, that one of the earliest advanced civilizations in Europe took shape. The early Minoan period, beginning around 3000 BCE, marked the dawn of a society that would eventually build magnificent palaces, develop intricate art, and establish itself as a major power in the ancient Mediterranean. The early Minoans were not a people who emerged suddenly. They were the result of gradual development over centuries. Archaeological evidence suggests that the island of Crete was settled by early farming communities as far back as the Neolithic period, around 7000 BCE. These early inhabitants, living in simple villages, cultivated the fertile soil and made use of the island's abundant resources. Over time, these small communities grew, and as they prospered, they began to trade with other settlements across the Aegean Sea. By the start of the early Minoan period, the Minoans had established a thriving society. The island's rich natural resources, including fertile land for agriculture and easy access to the sea, allowed them to develop a stable and prosperous economy. They grew crops like barley, wheat, and grapes, and raised sheep and goats for wool and dairy products. The abundance of resources enabled the Minoans to trade with neighboring islands and regions, laying the foundation for their rise as a dominant power in the Mediterranean. As trade networks expanded, the Minoans began to connect with other emerging civilizations, such as those in Anatolia and the Cycladic Islands. These interactions brought new ideas, technologies, and cultural influences, which the Minoans eagerly adopted and adapted. The introduction of metalworking, particularly bronze, transformed their society, allowing for the creation of more efficient tools, weapons, and intricate jewelry. This period of growth and exchange helped set the stage for the development of the advanced Minoan culture that would flourish in the centuries to come. The early Minoans were also skilled seafarers. Their mastery of the seas allowed them to establish trade routes and maintain connections with distant lands. They built sturdy ships capable of navigating the Aegean and Mediterranean waters, which not only facilitated trade but also encouraged exploration and expansion. This maritime prowess would later become a hallmark of Minoan civilization as they dominated the seas and became the leading traders of the ancient world. During the early Minoan period, the Minoans began to develop the social and political structures that would characterize their civilization. Small communities grew into larger, more organized settlements, with local leaders emerging to manage resources, oversee trade, and maintain order. Over time, these settlements became more complex, with some evolving into early versions of the palace complexes that would define the later Minoan period. These early structures likely served as centers for both administration and religious activity, indicating that the seeds of the sophisticated Minoan society were already being planted. One of the most fascinating aspects of the early Minoans is their art and craftsmanship. Even in this early stage, the Minoans displayed a remarkable skill in pottery making, producing beautifully decorated vessels that featured intricate patterns and motifs. These ceramics were not only functional but also served as a means of artistic expression, reflecting the emerging culture's connection to nature and the sea. The Minoans' love for beauty and art would later flourish into the vibrant frescoes and sculptures that adorned their palaces, but even in the early period, their creativity and skill were evident. Religion also played a significant role in early Minoan society. While the exact nature of their beliefs remains shrouded in mystery, archaeological evidence points to the worship of nature-related deities and fertility goddesses. Small figurines, thought to represent these deities, have been found in various early Minoan sites, suggesting that religious rituals and offerings were an integral part of their daily life. This spiritual connection to nature and fertility would continue to evolve as the civilization grew, influencing the religious practices and symbols of the later Minoan period. The early Minoan period was a time of growth, exploration, and development. It set the foundations for a civilization that would become one of the most influential cultures in the ancient world. The Minoans' mastery of agriculture, trade, and seafaring, combined with their artistic and religious practices, laid the groundwork for the flourishing society that would reach its peak during the Middle and Late Minoan periods. As we move forward in our exploration, we will witness the rise of the grand palaces and the vibrant culture that made the Minoans legendary. But it all began here, in the early Minoan period, where a humble yet ambitious society set its sights on the horizon and began its journey toward greatness. Palace complexes and urban development, the heart of Minoan society. As the Minoan civilization progressed from its early beginnings, it began to develop a level of sophistication that set it apart from other contemporary cultures. One of the most defining characteristics of the Minoans was their elaborate palace complexes, which became the political, economic, and religious centers of their society. These palaces were not just the homes of rulers, they were bustling hubs of activity that played a crucial role in the organization and daily life of the Minoan people. The most famous of these palace complexes is Knossos, located near the northern coast of Crete. Knossos, often considered the capital of Minoan civilization, was more than just a residence, it was a symbol of Minoan power and influence. The sprawling complex featured multiple levels, grand courtyards, storage facilities, workshops, and even sophisticated plumbing systems, including drainage and water supply networks that showcase the advanced engineering skills of the Minoans. The labyrinthine layout of Knossos, with its maze-like corridors and rooms, inspired the later Greek myths of King Minos and the Minotaur. But Knossos was not the only palace. Other significant sites like Phaistos, Malea, and Zakros also flourished during the peak of Minoan civilization. Each of these palaces was strategically located, often near fertile plains or along coastal regions, allowing them to control and manage the resources and trade routes of their surrounding areas. These palace centers were interconnected, forming a network of influence that extended throughout Crete and beyond, demonstrating the unity and coordination within the Minoan state. The palaces were the heart of urban development in Minoan society. Surrounding these grand complexes were organized towns and villages that housed the craftsmen, farmers, traders, and priests who contributed to the vibrant life of the Minoan civilization. The towns were not randomly developed but followed an organized layout, with roads, communal areas, and marketplaces that facilitated trade and social interaction. The close connection between the palaces and the surrounding urban areas suggests that the Minoans had a well-structured society where different regions were managed efficiently from these central hubs. The palace complexes also served as economic centers. Storage facilities, known as magazines, housed large quantities of food, oil, wine, and other goods that were collected as tribute or produced locally. The palaces acted as redistribution centers, where goods were stored, managed, and then distributed to the population, ensuring the economy remained stable. The extensive trade networks established by the Minoans were managed from these palace centers, connecting Crete to other islands and distant civilizations such as Egypt, Anatolia, and the Levant. The palaces, therefore, were not only symbols of political power but also economic engines that fueled Minoan prosperity. Art and culture thrived within the palace walls. The Minoans adorned their palaces with vibrant frescoes that depicted scenes of nature, religious rituals, and daily life. These frescoes, found in the grand halls and rooms of the palaces, provide us with a glimpse into the aesthetic sensibilities and cultural priorities of the Minoans. The vivid colors and dynamic compositions reflect a society deeply connected to nature, celebrating the beauty of the world around them. Scenes of dolphins, plants, and ceremonial processions tell us that the Minoans valued harmony with the natural environment, as well as the importance of religious and social rituals. The role of the palaces in religious activities was also significant. Many of the complexes included shrines and sacred spaces where the Minoans conducted rituals and ceremonies. The palaces were closely linked to Minoan religious practices, which often centered around the worship of fertility goddesses and nature deities. Rituals performed in these sacred spaces may have been led by priestesses, reflecting the important role that women played in Minoan religious life. The integration of religious, political, and economic activities within the palaces shows that Minoan society was highly interconnected, with the palaces acting as the focal points of this sophisticated civilization. The architectural design and decoration of the palaces were not only meant to serve practical purposes but also to showcase the wealth, power, and cultural achievements of the Minoans. The grand courtyards provided space for public gatherings and ceremonies, where people could come together to celebrate festivals and participate in communal life. The openness of these spaces, combined with the intricate architecture, suggests that the Minoans placed a high value on social interaction, public rituals, and the collective experience of community. Knossos, with its rich artistic heritage and complex structure, remains the most well-known of the Minoan palaces, but each site across Crete contributed to the overall development of Minoan society. Together, these palace complexes formed a network that allowed the Minoans to manage their resources, conduct their trade, and maintain their cultural identity. The success of the Minoan civilization was, in large part, due to the efficient and advanced organization of these palace centers. As we move deeper into the world of the Minoans, we will see how their palaces became more than just physical structures. They became symbols of a civilization that thrived on innovation, creativity, and unity. These architectural marvels, built with both beauty and function in mind, represent the heart of Minoan society, showcasing their ability to create a harmonious balance between nature, community, and power. Religion and rituals, the Minoan belief system. As we explore the world of the Minoans, we encounter a society deeply rooted in religious beliefs and practices. Religion played a central role in Minoan culture, influencing every aspect of their daily lives, from art and architecture to politics and society. The Minoans worshipped a pantheon of deities, many of which were tied to nature and fertility, reflecting their close relationship with the natural world. Their rituals and religious structures provide us with a glimpse into the spiritual life of this ancient civilization, revealing a complex belief system that was both mystical and integral to their identity. The Minoan religion is often described as polytheistic, with multiple gods and goddesses representing various aspects of nature, such as the sea, animals, and fertility. The most prominent of these deities is believed to be a great goddess, often associated with fertility, motherhood, and the earth itself. This goddess, depicted in many forms, was central to Minoan religious worship and may have been considered the protector of the island and its people. Evidence of this goddess's importance can be seen in numerous figurines and frescoes found throughout Minoan sites, depicting her holding snakes or surrounded by animals, symbols of fertility and protection. Priestesses appear to have played a significant role in Minoan religious life. Unlike other ancient civilizations where male priests dominated the religious hierarchy, Minoan society seemed to place women at the forefront of religious ceremonies. Artifacts and frescoes from palace sites such as Knossos and Hİstory depict women adorned in elaborate garments, participating in sacred rituals and ceremonies. These images suggest that priestesses held positions of power and influence, conducting the rites that connected the people to their deities. This prominence of women in religious roles indicates that the Minoans may have had a more balanced social structure, where women played a vital and respected part in both spiritual and societal leadership. The Minoan religious system also revolved around sacred spaces, many of which were found within the palace complexes. Shrines and altars were integrated into the architecture of these palaces, serving as places where rituals were conducted and offerings were made. Some of the most significant sacred spaces were found in the central courtyards of these palaces, where large gatherings could take place. It is believed that these courtyards hosted public ceremonies, processions, and festivals that were crucial to the religious and social life of the Minoans. Beyond the palaces, the Minoans also created rural sanctuaries and peak sanctuaries, often located on mountaintops or in remote locations. These peak sanctuaries, such as the one in Mount Juctas, held a special significance as they were believed to be closer to the gods. Pilgrimages to these sites may have been part of the Minoan religious calendar, and offerings such as clay figurines, pottery, and animal remains have been discovered there, indicating that rituals involving sacrifices were conducted. These sanctuaries reflect the Minoans' connection to nature and their belief in the power of the natural world as a sacred and divine entity. One of the most fascinating aspects of Minoan religion is their use of symbols, many of which appear repeatedly in Minoan art and architecture. The double axe, or labrys, is one of the most prominent symbols associated with Minoan worship. It is often found carved into stone or depicted in frescoes, and it may have represented a sacred tool used in rituals or a symbol of divine power. The bull is another central figure in Minoan religious iconography, often associated with strength and fertility. The famous bull leaping fresco from Knossos portrays acrobats performing daring leaps over the backs of bulls, suggesting that this animal played a key role in Minoan rituals, possibly as part of a fertility or initiation ceremony. The ritual of bull leaping itself is one of the most iconic and enigmatic aspects of Minoan culture. Scholars debate whether it was a religious rite, a sport, or a symbolic ceremony, but its depiction in numerous Minoan artworks highlights its importance. The bull may have represented a connection to the divine, and the act of leaping over the bull could symbolize a test of bravery or a sacred rite of passage. Regardless of its exact meaning, the bull leaping tradition exemplifies the Minoans' love of spectacle and their integration of physical prowess into their spiritual practices. Festivals and seasonal rituals also played a significant role in Minoan religious life. The Minoans celebrated the cycles of nature, marking events such as harvests and changes in the seasons with communal ceremonies. These festivals were likely held in the courtyards of palaces and peak sanctuaries, where the Minoans would gather to honor their deities and engage in communal feasting, dancing, and music. These events not only reinforced the religious beliefs of the society but also served as moments of unity, bringing the community together in celebration and reverence. Minoan religious practices were deeply interwoven with every aspect of their culture. The temples, symbols, and ceremonies that permeated their society reveal a civilization that saw the divine in every part of their world, from the mountains and seas to the animals and crops that sustained them. By integrating their spiritual beliefs into their daily lives, the Minoans created a society where religion was not just a set of practices but a way of life that connected them to the cosmos and to each other. As we continue our journey through the world of the Minoans, we will explore how their economy and trade networks allowed this vibrant civilization to flourish and interact with other cultures across the Mediterranean. But it was their deeply spiritual connection to nature and their gods that formed the foundation of their identity, a testament to their belief in the divine forces that shaped their world. Trade and cultural exchange, the Minoan economy. The Minoan civilization was not only known for its impressive palaces and rich artistic culture but also for its thriving economy, which was built upon extensive trade networks across the Mediterranean. The Minoans were master traders and seafarers, and their ability to navigate the seas and establish connections with distant cultures allowed them to become one of the most influential trading powers of their time. Their economy was deeply tied to their maritime prowess, and it was this connection that facilitated their rise as a dominant force in the ancient world. The island of Crete, home to the Minoan civilization, was strategically located at the crossroads of several major trade routes. The Minoans took full advantage of their position, developing a fleet of advanced ships that allowed them to transport goods across the Aegean Sea and beyond. The ships they built were sturdy, with large storage capacities, designed to withstand long voyages. This maritime expertise enabled them to reach distant lands, such as Egypt, Anatolia, Cyprus, and the Levant, establishing themselves as key players in the ancient economy. The Minoan economy was based on a variety of products, both agricultural and crafted. The fertile plains of Crete produced an abundance of crops, including barley, wheat, olives, and grapes. Olive oil and wine, in particular, became some of the most valuable goods the Minoans traded, and their high-quality pottery was used to transport these liquids across the Mediterranean. The island's agricultural surplus not only sustained the Minoan population but also created wealth that was used to support their palaces and public projects. Beyond agriculture, the Minoans were skilled artisans, producing a range of crafted goods that were highly valued by other cultures. Minoan pottery, with its distinctive style and vibrant designs, was traded far and wide. The Minoans also produced textiles, weapons, and jewelry, which they exchanged for luxury items such as gold, ivory, and precious stones from Egypt and the Near East. The wealth acquired through these exchanges enabled the Minoans to import resources that were scarce on Crete, such as metals, which were essential for their growing economy. The palaces of Crete played a central role in managing the economy. Each palace complex, like those at Knossos, Hİstory, and Malea, functioned as a hub for economic activity, overseeing the storage, production, and distribution of goods. These palace centers had extensive storage facilities where surplus agricultural products and trade goods were collected. This system allowed the Minoans to manage resources efficiently and maintain a steady supply of goods, which was crucial for both domestic needs and trade relations. The Minoans' trade networks extended far beyond their island shores. Their influence reached the Aegean Islands, the Cyclades, and even the distant shores of Egypt and the Levant. In these regions, Minoan traders exchanged goods and ideas, forming alliances and cultural connections that enriched both Minoan society and the civilizations with which they interacted. The Minoans were not only traders but also cultural ambassadors, spreading their influence and absorbing elements from the cultures they encountered. One of the most remarkable aspects of Minoan trade was their interaction with Egypt. Archaeological evidence indicates that Minoan artifacts, such as pottery and frescoes, were found in Egyptian sites, suggesting a strong trade relationship. The Minoans traded goods like olive oil, wine, and textiles for luxury items such as gold, ivory, and papyrus. These exchanges were not limited to material goods. The Minoans also adopted artistic styles and symbols from Egypt, which influenced their own culture. This cultural exchange enriched Minoan art and religious practices, demonstrating the interconnectedness of these ancient civilizations. The Minoans also maintained trade relations with the Levant and Anatolia. Through these connections, they obtained valuable metals like copper and tin, essential for the production of bronze. The Bronze Age, as it is often called, was a period when civilizations flourished through the use of this durable alloy, and the Minoans were at the forefront of this technological advancement. The ability to produce high-quality bronze tools, weapons, and artifacts allowed them to strengthen their economy and expand their influence across the Mediterranean. Cultural exchange was another significant aspect of Minoan trade. The contact between the Minoans and other cultures led to the blending of artistic styles, technologies, and religious ideas. The influence of Egyptian and Near Eastern motifs is evident in Minoan frescoes, pottery, and jewelry. Minoan artisans incorporated these foreign elements into their work, creating a unique blend of styles that reflected the diverse influences they encountered. This exchange of ideas not only enriched Minoan art but also allowed the civilization to play a key role in the development of Mediterranean culture. The economic prosperity brought by trade enabled the Minoans to invest in their cities and public works. The wealth generated from commerce funded the construction of their grand palaces, temples, and infrastructure. It also supported the development of their vibrant art and culture, as artisans and craftsmen were able to devote themselves to their work, creating the frescoes, pottery, and sculptures that have come to define the Minoan aesthetic. The Minoan economy was more than just a system of trade, it was the lifeblood of their civilization, connecting them to the wider world and allowing them to flourish. Through their seafaring skills, the Minoans established themselves as the dominant trading power of the Mediterranean, building a network that extended their influence far beyond the shores of Crete. The wealth and cultural connections they created through these networks laid the foundation for the golden age of Minoan civilization. As we continue our journey, we will delve into the art and frescoes that adorn the palaces and towns of Crete, exploring how the Minoans expressed their identity and beliefs through their vibrant and intricate works. The economy may have built their society, but it was their art that immortalized their legacy. Art and frescoes, the vibrant world of Minoan culture. As we dive deeper into the world of the Minoans, we discover a civilization that expressed itself through art, leaving behind a legacy of vibrant and dynamic works that provide us with a glimpse into their lives, beliefs, and surroundings. Minoan art, particularly their frescoes, pottery, and sculptures, reveals a society deeply connected to nature, religion, and everyday life. The walls of their palaces and buildings were adorned with colorful scenes that celebrated the beauty of the natural world and the complexity of their cultural identity. Frescoes are among the most iconic and well-preserved forms of Minoan art. These wall paintings, found primarily in the palaces of Knossos, Hİstory, and Crete, depict a variety of scenes, from ceremonial rituals to everyday activities. The Minoan frescoes are characterized by their bright colors, fluid lines, and dynamic compositions, giving a sense of movement and life. The artists used natural pigments to create vivid blues, reds, yellows, and greens, capturing the essence of their vibrant surroundings and culture. One of the most famous Minoan frescoes is the bull leaping fresco from Knossos, which portrays acrobats performing daring leaps over the backs of bulls. This dynamic scene, filled with energy and movement, reflects the importance of bulls in Minoan society, symbolizing strength and fertility. The act of bull leaping itself, possibly a religious or athletic ritual, highlights the Minoans' fascination with animals and their role in ceremonial life. The graceful figures depicted in the fresco, with their elongated bodies and fluid motions, showcase the Minoans' artistic skill and their ability to convey motion and emotion. The natural world was a central theme in Minoan art. Frescoes often featured landscapes filled with flowers, birds, and marine life, indicating the Minoans' deep appreciation for the environment around them. The spring fresco from Crete, for example, shows a vivid landscape of lilies, swallows, and rocky hills, capturing the beauty of Crete's natural scenery. Such artwork suggests that the Minoans not only observed their surroundings closely but also incorporated the beauty and harmony of nature into their cultural and spiritual practices. This connection between nature and art highlights the Minoans' view of the natural world as a source of life and inspiration. Minoan artists also depicted scenes of religious rituals and ceremonies in their frescoes, providing insight into their spiritual practices. Many of these artworks show women participating in these ceremonies, dressed in elaborate clothing and adorned with jewelry. The presence of women in these religious scenes suggests that they played a central role in Minoan religious life, perhaps as priestesses or leaders of sacred rites. The frescoes offer a rare look into these ceremonies, illustrating the importance of ritual and spirituality in Minoan society. In addition to frescoes, the Minoans were skilled potters, creating intricately decorated pottery that was both functional and artistic. Minoan pottery, particularly from the Middle and Late Minoan periods, is known for its elaborate designs and motifs inspired by the natural world. Marine life, such as octopuses, fish, and shells, frequently appeared on their pottery, reflecting the Minoans' connection to the sea. The marine-style pottery, with its detailed and swirling patterns, shows the Minoans' mastery in capturing the essence of movement and life within their ceramic art. Another significant motif in Minoan pottery and frescoes is the spiral, which symbolizes life, growth, and the cyclical nature of existence. This recurring pattern is seen in various forms throughout Minoan art, demonstrating their fascination with the natural rhythms of the world. The spiral, whether found on a pottery vessel or in the decorative borders of a fresco, serves as a reminder of the Minoans' connection to the cycles of nature and their reverence for the forces that govern their lives. Sculpture and small-scale figurines were also central to Minoan artistic expression. The most iconic of these is the snake goddess figurine, discovered at Knossos. These figurines depict a female figure holding snakes in each hand, wearing a tiered skirt and a fitted bodice, revealing her bare breasts. The snake, a symbol of regeneration and fertility, and the goddess's pose suggest a connection to the earth and its cycles. These figurines likely played a role in religious ceremonies, serving as representations of deities or priestesses involved in Minoan worship. The palaces themselves served as canvases for Minoan artists. The walls, ceilings, and floors were decorated with vibrant scenes that reflected the culture's values and aesthetics. The use of bright colors and dynamic compositions created an immersive environment, turning the palaces into spaces that celebrated both the natural and spiritual worlds. The architecture of these palaces, with their open courtyards and light wells, was designed to complement the frescoes, creating a sense of harmony between the built environment and the art that adorned it. Minoan art was not limited to religious or natural themes, it also depicted scenes of daily life, providing us with a valuable window into Minoan society. Frescoes showing activities such as fishing, dancing, and gathering in public spaces reveal a culture that valued social interaction and communal activities. These everyday scenes emphasize the Minoans' connection to their community and the importance of shared experiences in their culture. The vibrant art of the Minoans, whether seen in their frescoes, pottery, or sculptures, served as a medium through which they expressed their identity, beliefs, and connection to the world around them. The combination of dynamic forms, vivid colors, and intricate details reveals a civilization that celebrated life in all its forms, from the beauty of nature to the mysteries of the divine. Minoan art was not just decorative, it was a reflection of the values and spirit of the people who created it. As we move forward, we will explore the role of women in Minoan society and how their presence in art and religious practices highlights their significance in this vibrant culture. The artistic and cultural achievements of the Minoans remain a testament to their creativity and their enduring legacy in the ancient Mediterranean. The role of women in Minoan society. The Minoan civilization is often noted for its unique and progressive social structure, particularly when it comes to the role of women. Unlike many other ancient societies where women were typically confined to domestic roles, the Minoans appear to have had a more inclusive and balanced approach to gender. Evidence from frescoes, pottery, and artifacts reveals that women held prominent and influential positions within Minoan society, participating in religious, social, and economic activities. The visibility and importance of women in Minoan art and culture suggests that they were integral to the civilization's identity and function. One of the most striking aspects of Minoan society is the depiction of women in art, especially frescoes. In the vibrant murals found at palace sites like Knossos and Crete, women are often shown wearing elaborate, colorful garments, participating in ceremonies, and taking part in important rituals. Their presence in these public and religious scenes indicates that women likely held significant roles as priestesses and leaders in religious life. The prominence of women in religious contexts suggests that Minoan spirituality may have centered around female deities and that women were considered the natural intermediaries between the divine and the mortal world. The snake goddess figurines, discovered in Minoan sites such as Knossos, further illustrate the religious significance of women in Minoan culture. These figurines, often depicting women holding snakes, are believed to represent either goddesses or high-ranking priestesses. The snake, associated with regeneration and fertility, indicates that these figures had connections to nature and life cycles, both central elements of Minoan religion. The figurines highlight how women were not only participants in religious practices but also possibly revered as embodiments of divine power. Frescoes from Minoan palaces depict women not just as passive figures but as active participants in ceremonies and processions. They are often shown leading rituals, holding sacred objects, or engaging in dances and athletic activities alongside men. These images provide a sense of equality and balance, showing that women had a visible and respected role in public life. In contrast to other ancient societies where women's roles were limited, the Minoans seemed to integrate women fully into the spiritual and ceremonial fabric of their culture. The importance of women in Minoan society extended beyond religious and ceremonial life. Evidence suggests that women may have also played a role in the economic and administrative functions of the civilization. Artifacts such as seals and tablets found in palace archives indicate that women were involved in managing trade and overseeing the production and distribution of goods. In a society where trade and economy were vital to the civilization's success, the inclusion of women in these areas highlights their value and contribution to the overall prosperity of the Minoan state. The garments worn by women, as depicted in frescoes and artifacts, also offer insights into their status and significance. Minoan women are often shown wearing tiered skirts, fitted bodices, and elaborate jewelry, indicating a society where fashion and appearance played an important role. The attention to detail in their clothing suggests that women held a status that allowed them to express themselves and participate in the cultural and social life of the civilization. The elaborate nature of their attire, especially in ceremonial contexts, could also signify their power and influence within the religious hierarchy. Another important aspect of women's roles in Minoan society is their connection to sports and physical activities. Frescoes such as the bull leaping fresco depict women taking part in athletic events, showcasing their agility and strength alongside men. This depiction of women as active and capable participants in physical feats indicates that Minoan society valued the abilities and talents of women, celebrating their involvement in public and ceremonial spectacles. The fact that women were represented in such dynamic roles suggests that they had a level of freedom and respect that was unusual in the ancient world. Minoan women also appear to have had a strong connection to nature, a theme that permeates much of Minoan art and spirituality. Many frescoes and artifacts show women surrounded by flowers, animals, and other elements of the natural world, reinforcing their association with fertility and the cycles of life. This connection to nature may have been symbolic of their roles as nurturers and caretakers within the society, but it also seems to reflect a deeper spiritual relationship where women embodied the forces of nature and the earth itself. The prominence of these themes in Minoan art underscores the cultural importance of women in maintaining the balance between society and the natural world. While much of the evidence about Minoan women comes from art and religious contexts, these representations point to a broader social structure where women have a visible and influential presence. The integration of women into both the sacred and secular realms suggests that Minoan society was not rigidly divided by gender roles but rather allowed for a more fluid and inclusive participation in various aspects of life. Women were not only the caretakers of the home but also leaders, athletes, and spiritual guides, showing the multifaceted roles they played in Minoan culture. The significance of women in Minoan society sets it apart from many other ancient civilizations where women's roles were often restricted. The visibility and respect given to women in Minoan culture provide us with a glimpse into a society that valued the contributions of all its members, regardless of gender. This progressive approach may have contributed to the overall stability and prosperity of Minoan civilization, as it created a more balanced and harmonious social structure. As we continue our journey through the Minoan world, we will explore their maritime dominance and seafaring skills, which allowed them to establish a vast network of trade and influence across the Mediterranean. But it is important to recognize that the strong and influential roles played by women were a fundamental part of what made Minoan society so unique and enduring. Minoan seafaring and naval dominance. The Minoan civilization was not only known for its vibrant art and intricate palaces but also for its mastery of the seas. Their seafaring skills and naval dominance were key factors in their economic prosperity and cultural influence across the ancient Mediterranean. The Minoans were among the earliest and most accomplished maritime powers in the ancient world, using their advanced shipbuilding techniques and navigational knowledge to establish a vast network of trade routes that connected them with distant civilizations. This maritime prowess allowed them to become the dominant trading and cultural force in the Aegean Sea and beyond. Crete's strategic location in the heart of the Mediterranean provided the Minoans with easy access to other major civilizations such as Egypt, Anatolia, and the Levant. The island's proximity to these regions, combined with its natural harbors and access to rich agricultural lands, made it an ideal hub for maritime activity. The Minoans capitalized on these advantages, developing a fleet of ships designed for both trade and exploration. These ships, often depicted in Minoan art and pottery, featured sleek designs and sturdy construction, allowing them to navigate the open waters of the Mediterranean with confidence and speed. The Minoans' maritime dominance was not limited to commerce, it also extended to exploration and the establishment of colonies. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Minoans set up trading outposts and settlements on nearby islands such as Thera, modern-day Santorini, Kythera, and Melos. These outposts allowed them to maintain control over vital trade routes and resources, as well as to exert influence over other cultures in the region. The presence of Minoan artifacts and pottery in these locations highlights the extent of their reach and the importance of their naval capabilities in maintaining their influence. The Minoan seafaring skills also played a crucial role in their trade networks, which were among the most extensive in the ancient Mediterranean. They traded goods such as olive oil, wine, pottery, and textiles with distant lands, including Egypt and the Levant. In return, they imported luxury items like gold, ivory, and precious stones, as well as essential resources such as copper and tin, which were vital for bronze production. The wealth generated from these trade networks fueled the growth of Minoan cities, supported the construction of their grand palaces, and allowed for the flourishing of their vibrant culture. The Minoans' maritime power also provided them with a means of defense. While evidence of large-scale warfare is limited, it is believed that the Minoans relied on their navy to protect their trade routes and territory. The lack of fortified city walls in Minoan settlements suggests that they felt secure in their naval superiority and the protection it afforded. Their ships allowed them to monitor and control the seas around Crete, deterring potential threats and ensuring that their trade and communication networks remained intact. Minoan naval dominance is closely tied to their art and religious practices as well. Frescoes and pottery from this period frequently depict ships and scenes of seafaring life, illustrating the importance of the sea in Minoan culture. The flotilla fresco from Crete on the island of Thera, for instance, shows a detailed procession of ships sailing between islands, emphasizing the Minoans' connection to the sea and their role as the dominant maritime power in the region. This fresco not only highlights their navigational prowess but also suggests that seafaring was a celebrated and integral part of Minoan identity. The sea was also an important aspect of Minoan religious life. Many Minoan rituals and symbols, such as the double axe, labrys, and the bull, may have had connections to the sea and maritime activities. The bull, in particular, is often associated with Poseidon, the god of the sea, and suggests that Minoan religion was influenced by their maritime lifestyle. Rituals and festivals may have been held to honor the gods and ensure safe voyages and prosperous trade, indicating that the Minoans saw their seafaring skills as not just a practical necessity but also a divine gift that required reverence and respect. The eruption of the Thera volcano around 1600 BCE had a significant impact on Minoan seafaring and naval dominance. The massive eruption, which devastated the island of Thera, sent shockwaves through the Aegean and disrupted the Minoans' established trade routes and connections. The resulting tsunamis and ashfall likely caused damage to Minoan ports and ships, weakening their control over the seas. This natural disaster may have contributed to the decline of Minoan naval power and set the stage for the rise of other maritime civilizations, such as the Mycenaeans, who would later dominate the Aegean. Despite the challenges they faced, the legacy of the Minoans as master seafarers and traders continued to influence the ancient world. Their ships, trade networks, and colonies laid the groundwork for future civilizations in the Mediterranean, and their maritime innovations set standards that would be followed by others for centuries. The Minoans' ability to harness the power of the sea allowed them to build a civilization that was not only prosperous but also culturally vibrant, creating a lasting impact that echoed across the ancient world. As we proceed in our exploration of the Minoans, we will delve into one of the most catastrophic events that impacted their civilization, the eruption of the Thera volcano. This event marked a turning point in their history and may have played a crucial role in the eventual decline of their dominance. Join me as we explore the aftermath of this powerful eruption and its consequences for the Minoan world. The eruption of Thera, catastrophe and its consequences. The Minoan civilization, with its prosperous cities and mastery of the seas, faced a turning point around 1600 BCE when one of the most cataclysmic volcanic eruptions in history occurred. The eruption of the Thera volcano, located on the island of Santorini, ancient Thera, was a massive event that sent shockwaves through the entire Mediterranean. The eruption, with its immense force, is believed to have been a major factor in the decline of the Minoan civilization, disrupting their trade networks, damaging their infrastructure, and altering their way of life. As we delve into this catastrophic event, we uncover the profound impact it had on the Minoans and their once thriving society. The eruption of Thera was one of the largest volcanic events in recorded history, comparable to the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE or Krakatoa in 1883. The explosion sent volcanic ash and debris high into the atmosphere, creating a massive plume that could be seen for hundreds of miles. The island of Thera itself was devastated, with much of its landmass collapsing into the sea, forming the caldera that we see today. The archaeological site of Crete, a Minoan settlement on Thera, was buried under several meters of ash, preserving it much like Pompeii but also serving as a stark reminder of the scale of the destruction. The immediate effects of the eruption were felt across the Aegean. The massive explosion triggered powerful tsunamis that swept across the sea, crashing into the shores of nearby islands, including Crete. These tsunamis would have caused significant damage to Minoan coastal cities and ports, washing away ships, buildings, and infrastructure essential to their maritime economy. The destruction of harbors and ships disrupted the Minoans' established trade routes, cutting them off from the network of connections they had built over centuries. The ashfall from the eruption further compounded the devastation. Ash from Thera spread over a wide area, affecting not only Crete but also other regions of the eastern Mediterranean. This layer of ash covered agricultural fields, contaminating the soil and making it difficult for crops to grow. The resulting famine and economic hardship likely weakened the Minoan civilization's ability to recover quickly. The impact on agriculture would have been severe, as the Minoans relied heavily on their fertile land for the production of olive oil, wine, and grain, essential components of their trade economy. The eruption also had long-term climatic effects. The vast amount of ash and gases released into the atmosphere may have led to a period of cooling, causing disruptions in weather patterns. These changes could have led to unpredictable harvests and further challenges for Minoan society. Such environmental stresses, combined with the physical destruction of cities and ports, would have made it increasingly difficult for the Minoans to maintain their dominance and recover their former prosperity. The Thera eruption not only impacted the Minoan economy but also their social and religious structure. The Minoans, like many ancient civilizations, likely viewed natural disasters as divine messages or punishments. The sudden and catastrophic nature of the eruption, along with the ensuing tsunamis and destruction, may have shaken the Minoan spiritual beliefs and rituals. Temples and sacred sites damaged or destroyed by the disaster could have disrupted religious practices and ceremonies, which were central to Minoan culture and society. The Minoans may have interpreted the eruption as a sign of displeasure from the gods, leading to a crisis of faith that compounded the material and economic challenges they faced. Archaeological evidence from Crete suggests that the Minoans tried to rebuild and recover in the aftermath of the eruption. Cities like Knossos continued to function, and efforts were made to restore damaged infrastructure and revive trade networks. However, the weakened state of the civilization made them vulnerable to external threats. The Mycenaeans, a rising power from mainland Greece, began to expand their influence, taking advantage of the weakened state of Minoan Crete. By the time the Minoans had attempted to rebuild their society, the Mycenaeans were already establishing their dominance in the Aegean, gradually absorbing Minoan territories and culture into their own. The Thera eruption marks a pivotal moment in the history of the Minoans. What was once a flourishing civilization with extensive trade networks and a powerful navy was now struggling to maintain its position in a changed and hostile environment. The loss of key ports and agricultural lands, combined with the social and spiritual impact of the disaster, created a situation where the Minoans were unable to fully recover. This shift allowed other powers, like the Mycenaeans, to rise and dominate the region, eventually leading to the end of the Minoan Golden Age. Despite the tragedy of the Thera eruption and its consequences, the Minoan legacy did not disappear entirely. Elements of Minoan culture, including their art, architecture, and religious practices, were adopted and adapted by the Mycenaeans. The myth of Atlantis, described by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, is believed by some scholars to have been inspired by the story of the Minoans and the catastrophic eruption of Thera. This connection between myth and history highlights how the memory of the Minoan civilization and its mysterious end continued to resonate long after their decline. The eruption of Thera serves as a reminder of the power of nature and its ability to shape the course of human history. For the Minoans, it was a disaster that marked the beginning of the end for their once great civilization. But it also left behind a legacy of resilience as they tried to rebuild and adapt to the new world that emerged in the aftermath. As we move forward, we will explore the final stages of the Minoan civilization and examine the factors that contributed to their eventual decline, whether through further natural disasters, invasions, or internal conflicts. The decline of the Minoans, invasion or natural disaster? The decline of the Minoan civilization remains one of the most enduring mysteries of ancient history. Despite their advanced society, thriving economy, and influential culture, the Minoans gradually lost their dominance in the Aegean region, and their civilization eventually faded away. Scholars have long debated the causes of this decline, and two main theories have emerged: the impact of natural disasters, such as the Thera eruption, and the possibility of invasions, particularly by the rising power of the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece. As we explore the final chapters of the Minoan story, we will examine these theories and the evidence that sheds light on the end of this once great civilization. One of the most significant natural events believed to have contributed to the decline of the Minoans is the eruption of Thera, which occurred around 1600 BCE. As detailed in the previous chapter, this massive volcanic eruption had catastrophic consequences, including tsunamis that devastated coastal settlements and ashfall that disrupted agriculture. The impact of the Thera eruption would have weakened the Minoans significantly, damaging their ports, ships, and fields, all of which were essential to their economy. The aftermath of this disaster likely led to food shortages, economic instability, and a weakened state of infrastructure, making it difficult for the Minoans to recover fully. However, while the Thera eruption undoubtedly played a role in destabilizing Minoan society, it may not have been the sole cause of their decline. Archaeological evidence suggests that Minoan cities, such as Knossos, continued to function and rebuild after the eruption, indicating that the civilization did not collapse immediately. This suggests that while Thera was a devastating blow, it was not necessarily the final factor in their decline. Instead, the eruption may have left the Minoans vulnerable, setting the stage for other forces to take advantage of their weakened state. The second major theory for the decline of the Minoans is invasion, particularly by the Mycenaeans, a powerful civilization emerging on the Greek mainland. As the Minoans struggled to recover from the environmental and economic damage caused by the Thera eruption, the Mycenaeans began to expand their influence across the Aegean. The Mycenaeans, who shared some cultural similarities with the Minoans but had a more militaristic society, gradually established their dominance in the region. Archaeological evidence supports the theory of Mycenaean involvement in the decline of the Minoans. Around 1450 BCE, there is a noticeable shift in the material culture of Minoan sites. Linear B tablets, a form of writing used by the Mycenaeans, begin to appear in Minoan palaces like Knossos, indicating that the Mycenaeans had taken control of these centers of power. The presence of Mycenaean pottery and architecture in formerly Minoan areas also suggests that the Mycenaeans either invaded or gradually absorbed Minoan territory. The Mycenaean takeover was not necessarily a violent conquest. It is possible that the Mycenaeans initially established themselves as allies or trading partners, taking advantage of the weakened Minoans to gain influence and control. Over time, as the Mycenaeans grew stronger, they may have asserted dominance over Minoan cities and trade routes, effectively taking control of the Minoan economy and political system. This process of gradual integration or dominance would explain why Minoan culture did not disappear suddenly but rather emerged with Mycenaean practices, resulting in a blend of influences. Another factor that may have contributed to the decline of the Minoans is a series of subsequent natural disasters and environmental changes following the Thera eruption. Archaeologists have found evidence of earthquakes that struck Crete during this period, causing further damage to Minoan palaces and infrastructure. These earthquakes may have compounded the difficulties the Minoans faced in rebuilding their society, making it increasingly challenging to restore their cities and maintain their trade networks. The combination of natural disasters and the pressure from external threats like the Mycenaeans created a situation where the Minoans could no longer sustain their dominance. Internal factors may have also played a role in the decline of the Minoan civilization. As the Mycenaeans established themselves within the Minoan centers, there may have been internal conflicts and power struggles between local Minoan elites and the new Mycenaean rulers. These struggles could have led to political instability, further weakening the cohesion and unity of Minoan society. The changing leadership and the blending of cultures may have disrupted traditional Minoan practices, including their religious and administrative systems, creating confusion and disorganization within the society. By the time the Mycenaeans fully established their dominance over Crete, around 1400 BCE, the Minoan civilization had already undergone significant changes. The grand palaces that once stood as symbols of Minoan power and prosperity were either destroyed or repurposed by the Mycenaeans. The cities that had been the centers of trade and culture became part of a new Mycenaean-dominated network, and the once vibrant Minoan society gradually faded into the background. The collapse of Minoan civilization was not a single, abrupt event but rather a slow decline, influenced by a combination of natural and human factors. Despite their decline, the legacy of the Minoans continued to influence the Mycenaeans and later Greek civilizations. The Mycenaeans adopted many aspects of Minoan culture, including their writing system, linear B, religious symbols, and art forms. The blending of Minoan and Mycenaean traditions contributed to the development of Greek culture in the centuries that followed. The Minoans may have lost their power, but their influence lived on through the civilizations that succeeded them. The mystery of the Minoan decline, whether through invasion, natural disaster, or a combination of both, remains a compelling story of how even the most advanced and prosperous civilizations can be vulnerable to the forces of nature and the shifting tides of power. The Minoans' ability to create such a vibrant and influential culture serves as a reminder of their resilience and ingenuity, even in the face of overwhelming challenges. As we conclude our exploration of the Minoans, we will look at their enduring legacy and the ways in which their culture and achievements continue to resonate through history, influencing later civilizations and leaving a lasting mark on the ancient Mediterranean world. The legacy of the Minoans echoes through history. As we conclude our journey through the world of the Minoans, we reflect on the lasting impact this extraordinary civilization had on the ancient Mediterranean and beyond. Though the Minoans eventually faded from power, their influence endured through the cultures that followed. The legacy of the Minoans is evident in the art, architecture, religious practices, and myths that permeated the region for centuries, shaping the course of history and leaving a mark that continues to captivate us today. One of the most enduring aspects of the Minoan legacy is their art and architecture. The vibrant frescoes and intricate pottery styles that characterize Minoan creativity were adopted and adapted by the Mycenaeans, who incorporated Minoan motifs into their own cultural expressions. The Mycenaean civilization, which rose to prominence as the Minoans declined, inherited much of the Minoan aesthetic, ensuring that the artistic traditions of Crete continued to influence the Aegean region. This blending of Minoan and Mycenaean styles laid the foundation for the development of Greek art, a tradition that would later become one of the most celebrated in the ancient world. Minoan architecture, particularly their grand palace complexes, also left a lasting impression. The Minoans' innovative use of space, light, and decoration influenced the design of later structures in the Greek world. The open courtyards, multi-level buildings, and advanced plumbing systems of Knossos served as architectural models that were later incorporated into the palaces and temples of ancient Greece. The concept of the palace as not only a residence but also a center of administration, religion, and culture was a Minoan innovation that persisted in the region long after their civilization declined. The religious practices of the Minoans also had a significant influence on later Mediterranean cultures. The Minoans worshipped a pantheon of deities closely connected to nature, fertility, and the cycles of life. These themes were adopted by the Mycenaeans and, eventually, by the Greeks, who incorporated elements of Minoan spirituality into their own religious practices. The prominence of female deities in Minoan religion, such as the Great Goddess, may have influenced the later worship of goddesses like Demeter and Artemis in Greek mythology. The symbols and rituals associated with the Minoan religion continue to resonate, forming a bridge between the ancient world of Crete and the classical traditions that followed. The myth of Atlantis, as described by the Greek philosopher Plato, is another example of how the memory of the Minoans persisted long after their civilization had disappeared. Some scholars believe that the story of Atlantis, a powerful and advanced society that was destroyed by a cataclysmic event, was inspired by the Minoan civilization and the eruption of Thera. While the connection remains speculative, the parallels between the myth and the history of the Minoans highlight how their legacy became woven into the fabric of Greek storytelling and philosophical thought. In addition to their cultural and religious influence, the Minoans also played a key role in the development of trade and seafaring in the Mediterranean. Their mastery of the seas and extensive trade networks helped establish the foundations for the interconnected economies of the ancient world. The routes they developed and the maritime skills they honed were passed on to subsequent civilizations, including the Mycenaeans and the Greeks. The legacy of the Minoans as pioneers of Mediterranean trade ensured that their contributions to commerce and exploration continued to shape the region for centuries. The echoes of Minoan civilization can also be found in the ruins that remain today. The palaces of Knossos, Hİstory, and Crete stand as monuments to a vibrant and sophisticated society that flourished in the heart of the Mediterranean. These archaeological sites, with their frescoes, pottery, and artifacts, offer us a glimpse into a world that was once full of life, color, and innovation. The preservation of these sites allows us to connect with the Minoans, to walk in the footsteps of their people, and to marvel at the complexity and beauty they created. Although the Minoans eventually disappeared from the stage of history, their legacy continues to captivate and inspire. The story of their rise, their mastery of the seas, their art, and their eventual decline reminds us of the fragility of even the most advanced civilizations. Yet it also serves as a testament to human creativity, resilience, and the ability to build a world that echoes through time. The Minoans may have faded, but their story remains alive, whispering to us from the ruins of Crete and the pages of history. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the life and legacy of the Minoans. I hope you've enjoyed exploring the mysteries and wonders of this ancient civilization as much as I have enjoyed sharing them with you. If you found this story intriguing, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more whisper tales from the past. And, as always, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future topics. Until next time, may the echoes of history continue to inspire and captivate you.